Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We are your hosts, Karan and Kristen. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble.
Today on our podcast, we are talking with Julia Blackwell. Julia is a healing wizard who helps her clients reconnect with their bodies and demystifying their pain signals. Julia has been rebelling against the healthcare system, which for her has been telling her what her body is and isn't capable of since she was a young child. Julia is the founder of Roller Club, a membership that helps people figure out their own pain and optimize their movement. What's more pirate than helping others find freedom within their own bodies? So, welcome, Julia. We're glad to have you here.
Hi, thanks so much. So excited to be on.
Talk to you about your own pirate journey. So, pull up a chair, lay out a tale for us of your origin story to becoming a modern day pirate.
Ooh, so much. Normally the joke is when you ask someone where they came from, they say, "Oh, well, when I was born, ha ha ha," and everyone laughs. That's actually my scenario where I was almost a 10-pound baby and I got stuck.
Ooh.
So in attempts to pull me out, that yanking motion tore all of the nerves in my right shoulder and in the neck area here. Unfortunately, that rendered my arm pretty much useless initially until I had a massive nerve regraft surgery at only 4 months old.
Wow.
And while that did help bring my arm back online, if you will, it still left me with a limited range of motion, limited strength, and an incessant amount of tightness. So growing up, for as long as I can remember, I was going to occupational therapy appointments, doctor's checkups, just very heavily involved in the Western medical system. And every single one of these people would essentially tell me I was screwed. Like, this thing was never going to get any better. Ignore this tightness you're feeling because, hey, that's your life now. If anything, this condition is only going to decline. It's like, it's only going to get worse from here. And one doctor even told me that I should never expect to play any both arm required sports, which is frankly an insane thing to tell a 7-year-old.
Wow, yeah.
And that was, the stories I grew up hearing about my own body was a story of limitation and a box that I had to be in. And while I had no reason to disbelieve these people of authority, I was very angry and frustrated about it. I was very tired of hearing, "No, you can't do that," or "Julia, you can try to do that, but it's going to be so much harder for you because of your arm." That was the main feedback I was getting on a normal basis. So eventually I did get fed up with enough no's that I begged and pleaded and finally convinced my parents to let me play volleyball when I was 11. And I was so excited to be able to play a sport, which, let's be honest, is a very both arms required sport. I found that I could make enough modifications to do it that I threw all of my energy at it. I practiced all the time. I would perfect my little modifications that I needed and ended up outplaying a lot of my healthy teammates and started to win some awards. And I ultimately ended up earning a full ride scholarship to a Division II college to play ball there. So I did immediately disrupt the system. Someone told me that I wasn't allowed to play sports or that I couldn't do it. It felt like my life's mission to prove them wrong, which I did, and is great. But it did really hone in for me where the medical system had such crazy power to like tell you what your own body was capable of. It was actually really confusing in my mind for a while, where I continued to get better at volleyball. We kept winning tournaments, and I set a record in high school at one point, and my brain was like, you shouldn't be able to do this, because that was so ingrained in my brain. And I was like, I wonder what else I'm missing out on. And then eventually I ended up moving to Boulder, Colorado in 2010, and discovered a lady who did kinetics fascia release, which is the work I do now. And she changed my whole life. Working on fascia and doing this specific method that she was doing helped change the look and feel of my arm more in 3 months than an entire lifetime of growing up in the Western medical system. Wow. And again, that light bulb clicked on for me, where like, I feel that I was lied to, put in this box of, you're never going to heal except where you're at, you're done here. And realized there were so many other avenues to find healing and regain some range of motion and some strength that I didn't have before. Of course, it's still a process. My arm still has a ways to go, but this was the first thing that had ever made a dent in this limitation. And I saw how much, if it could help someone like me, who was supposed to have irrevocable damage, how much this could help other people that maybe like me had been told that they would never run again, that they would always have back pain or whatever the thing was. And that's how I pivoted my career into fascia release and teaching people about their body and helping them rewire their mindset that they're totally capable of healing.
Yeah, that's such a powerful story. And Chris and I were talking a little bit about it before you hopped on, how similar it is to what has gotten me into what I do. And I help women with their hormone issues. And it came as well of being fed up with, just Western medical telling me that, oh, there's nothing you can do. You're just a woman. You just need to suffer through it. This is your plight in life. And just prescribing pharmaceuticals. And, no talk about nutrition or lifestyle or sleep or stress or any of those things to move women forward into living happier, healthier lives and dealing with hormonal issues, whether that just be, PMS or painful periods or PCOS or what have you. What is it about? I wonder if you have any theories about why the Western medical community hasn't caught up with some of these other modalities of optimal health. Do you have anything that comes up for you?
I know one thing to be true, which is unfortunately the way that our medical system is structured right now, we give physicians and practitioners very little time that they're allowed to spend with patients. So one of my best friends is a nurse practitioner. She started as an RN, and she only did a couple months of being an RN before she said, I cannot do this. I'm getting penalized if I'm spending longer than 15 minutes with someone. Like, I have to see so many people an hour. And in 15 minutes, someone has it's enough time to build some rapport and then talk symptoms. It's hardly any time to fully assess someone holistically on kind of what you were just saying is, okay, you have back pain. How's your posture? How's the rest of your body looking? How's your knees? What's your nutrition like? What's your activity level? There's so many things that we really need to look at as a whole to be able to find the root cause of something. And we're giving people only enough time to silence a symptom. And that's become really the main thing. If you go to a doctor, please note that this is not universal, but often you go with a pain, and I'm specifically talking about chronic pain. That's where my my eye starts twitching at the way that this can be handled. But for pain, it's like, oh, you're feeling this pain and you're upset about it. I can give you a cortisone shot. I can subscribe some pain pills, or I can maybe send you to a PT. And that's down another rabbit hole of what, PTs under insurance often are only allowed to perform certain treatments based on what the insurance company will pay for. So we're really bound up in the Western medical system right now, and a lot of it isn't, the physician's fault, but it's really frustrating that unfortunately not only are we not giving people enough time, but we've also conditioned people, and this is like including myself growing up, we've conditioned ourselves to believe that doctors have all of the answers and they are the only ones that could possibly understand what's going on with our own body. So we tap out of our own, like we learn to disconnect from our body and rely on someone else to give us the answer. So I think that's another thing that I don't think the Western medical system necessarily started. Maybe they did in a sneaky way of like, you have to come to us and rely on us for everything, but it's very effective. Whatever started that movement, it's become very effective. I have my job cut out for me, helping people reconnect with their own sensations and understanding what's helpful for their specific body when it comes to pain relief.
So once you had this experience working with another practitioner, what has your I'm just curious what the educational journey has been like for you.
Yeah, of course I was so excited by my own results and my own experience through this. I went deep down the rabbit hole of learning about fascia because I'd never heard of what that term even was. And was like, how have I missed this thing? I've done every possible treatment modality you can think of up until this point, and nothing had even remotely changed anything. So I was like, holy crap, I have to figure out what this is. So some of it is self-research. And then I started as a Rossiter practitioner, which is a variation of the method I do now, and then kinetics, which overall I would guess is about a 5-year educational journey. And then now I'm simply keeping up to date on all things new in the fascia world. It's only about, I want to say 50 years that they've really been deeply diving into understanding what this is. So new research is coming out all the time. So some of it's just fun to learn new things on my own.
Cool. So what would you say with your work? What is the social rebellion that you're looking to start or that you've started with the work that you're doing?
Ooh, well, I certainly have an unconventional method in the sense that I step on people and I talk them through an active range of motion, which is, I think, the only one of its kind with this specific combination of stepping and active movement, where I'm having the person being stepped on choose to engage their muscles in a certain way and override some of their own neurological loops by moving themselves. And after every single technique I do, I have someone check back in. It is one of my biggest things to have people understand what's happening in their own body. So anytime someone's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. You're going to tell me how you're feeling right now. No one knows your body better than you. I'm simply a tool to help provide compression or provide you with some common pain patterns and help you understand where in your body could be pulling that's causing this sensation. But ultimately, you're going to be the one to tell me whether you feel better or not. So I love teaching people that body awareness component, that reopening the door of communication with your body so that we can start trusting ourselves so much more when it comes to pain. Now, of course, I like to be clear that if you fall off a ladder or you crash your mountain bike or there's an actual injury that happens, you're jumping during your sports game and you land on your knee and your ankle does something absolutely crazy and swells up, like that's the time and place for Western medicine. But so much of the aches and pains we feel, and that includes like tendinitis, random aches, sharp pains in like the knee, the shoulder, all of these chronic type pains are largely fascia related, because your fascia goes around every single thing in your body and is organizing your shape and structure. So taking care of your fascia is such a critical part of this. Oh my gosh, I'm going down all of these rabbit holes. Am I answering your questions?
Yeah, no, I love it. Like, keep going. We've got time. This is why we want to talk to you.
But yeah, helping people understand where their own body is pulling, or where their body is more dense or restricted, that's so much more empowering for you, because then the next time you say you're out on a run and your knee starts hurting, instead of having a panicked moment, which so many of us have, like, oh my gosh, I better go to the doctor, because how could I possibly know what's wrong right now? I'm wanting to flip the script of turning that fear and panic into curiosity of like, oh, my knee's hurting. I wonder how to go about this to figure out what's going on. My favorite compliment that I get from clients is, it's a backhanded compliment, but they'll say like, hey, I was out for a hike and my knee hurt, and then I did the foam rolling that you recommended and my knee pain went away. I'm like, oh, yes, like you did that yourself. And that makes my heart explode. That was something that I wish I would have had someone in my life growing up saying like, hey, you can totally heal from this thing. You can choose whether you want to align yourself with everything the doctor's saying or not. So I'm hoping to start that movement. Outside of body work, I also teach people virtually how to do the same style of fascia release with a foam roller. So whether you're in my office or following some instructions on a foam roller, the message is still the same. Like, you are tapping into your own sensations and discovering, with a little bit of help, but you're discovering ultimately what you and your body needs for healing.
Yeah, I love that. And that really resonates with me, because the best thing for me when my clients are like, I don't need you anymore because I've got great energy. My periods feel great. They're regular. They're on time. I'm not in a lot of pain. The acne's gone. And I know most of my clients, when we have that conversation, they feel guilty. Well, like, oh, I don't want to like dump you. I feel like I'm dumping you. I'm like, no, my whole thing is to educate you. And when we're not working together, now when these other things come up, now how to deal with them and how to make yourself feel better. And that's really what it is like really wanting to almost work ourselves out of business, because everybody knows how to heal themselves and help themselves to feel better. So it really resonates with me what you're talking about, and that education piece is huge. And one of the things that I know I work a lot with my clients, and that you mentioned, is really that body awareness. And so often people are completely checked out from how they're feeling. What do you do to help people? How do you help people check in and really get more connected with their bodies?
A lot of it is questions. I rarely accept an answer of, this thing hurts. I like, how does it hurt? Is it achy? Is it tight? Is it sharp? Like, let's name it. Let's put it on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's focus in on the placement. It's a lot of questions. And it's fun to see the wheels start turning. So many times people have to stop at the beginning and they think about it for a while before they can name it. And then it gets better as time goes on, as they're learning to describe things. I was saying before, after every technique, I have people check in, because it's always fun to get that light bulb moment of, we release one specific area and someone's like, oh my gosh, that was the thing. I want to make sure we're catching that when it comes around. And so every time I'm like, okay, what does that feel like now? It's fun to see people like, oh, it feels lighter. I feel that I'm standing taller. It really starts to get people more inwardly focused by simply asking those questions. Also, the work that I'm doing is fascia release, and your fascia is filled with proprioceptors, which are the things that tell your body where it is in space, right? But it's also constantly taking in data on both your internal and your external environment. So it's giving you all the ideas of how to interact with the world, how to interpret what's happening around you. And when we contact the fascia with some pretty powerful compression, those proprioceptors are like boom, 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 boom. They're lighting up and giving all of this awareness to the area that you're working. And so it does help to do both. Like we're physically creating a sensation in your body, and then continuing to ask these questions of like, let's get further, give me more descriptions, let's tap into this more. And I really feel this, like we're made to do that. We're made to be very connected with our body and understand what's going on. I think our body knows what's wrong way before our mind does. And so I love seeing how fast it kicks on when you're asked the right questions.
Yeah, amazing.
And Julia, you have been on quite a journey of your life. I want to hear a little bit about mountain, like going out and adventuring and going on these mountain climbs. I want to hear you tell us about that adventure.
Oh man, well, after playing competitive volleyball for a decade, when I graduated and moved to Colorado, I was a little unsure what I was doing with my life as far as challenges go. I love a good physical challenge. As we were mentioning before, I still have a deep-rooted story that I can't do certain things. And so I have this really strong internal drive to prove people wrong, whether it's to my advantage or detriment. But one of my best friends who was living out in Boulder at the time took me up my first 14er, which is a peak above 14,000 feet in Colorado. That's what they lovingly call it. And I felt so strong and accomplished standing on top of this mountain that took a lot of effort to get up. And I got really excited and was like, ooh, how many of these are there? And I want to start doing them. So yeah, there's 58 in Colorado, and I decided from that day I was gonna do all of them. So I started mostly hiking with my best friend, and her dad, who's a master mountaineer, he's the coolest. And he taught me a lot of amazing skills, both of them did, on, how to mountaineer well. And we started doing harder and harder peaks where it required me to climb and use my grip strength and use both arms in possibly perilous situations. They were every now and again, but oh man, it's been such a rewarding and amazing experience. I'm almost done. I have 13 left.
Wow. I'm
hoping to finish this summer if the weather allows it. But thanks for asking. Yeah, it's something I'm really proud of, and something that certainly helps rewrite the story that, for the longest time I thought I was fragile. And being able to hike some pretty intense terrain and hike for, I think the longest hike I've done is 12 and a half hours.
Wow.
And climb some very technical stuff with ice axes and no ropes and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's helpful, again, to rewrite that story, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, going from the things you can't do to going off and doing something that I imagined doing. So.
Yeah, if you told 15-year-old me that I was going to be summiting crazy mountain peaks, I'd be like, you're high.
I mean, that's pretty pirate in my opinion. rewriting the story that you'd been told from such a young age and being like, no, let go what I can do. So yeah, I think that's really, really cool. So what, and we may have already asked too, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What social rebellion are you looking to, or have you already started?
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit, but yeah, mostly that I'm gonna interrupt the weird system of passive release where, we've got a medical system that prefers ice and heat packs and electrical stem, or even massages where you're mentally checked out. You're laying there and expecting change to happen from someone else.
Mm.
I love interrupting the pattern of a new modality and essentially inviting people into their own healing process. Like, I'm not going to move this thing for you. You have to move it. You interrupt your own patterns. You get to be your own tool for healing. And that was very powerful for me in my experience with this work, and something that, based off of the feedback and the results I've been getting in my practice for the last 9 years, it's apparent that that is a huge part of this is getting your brain involved and you choosing the way that you move and interrupting your own patterns. So that's certainly a part of it as far as like the methodology goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, yeah, the education component where, my husband and I were talking a while back about like the language people use in the medical field, someone in the general wellness space. It's easy to go heavily down the science path and the anatomically correct term path, where what you're really doing with that language is like putting a huge gap in between yourself and the average person. And like, why are we keeping people out and making them feel like they couldn't possibly understand their own body? Like, let's break it down for people and demystify what sounds so complicated in our body. And to be fair, it is complicated, but there are so many simple solutions and way to tackle pain that simply take a little bit of explanation. So I love giving people as many tools as possible to understand their own pain, so that, again, we're taking out the fear that goes with pain and creating an opportunity to connect with our body and figure out what our own body needs.
Yeah. And you seem like a woman of action. So questions feels a little silly to ask, but what small, bold actions do you take to move yourself forward and your clients forward?
Wow, that's an interesting question, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Really what I'm hoping to do is show up every day for the people that I'm either working on in person or I'm working with a lot virtually now.
Mm-hmm.
Really showing them the tools that they need and staying with them. Like, it's very easy to fall off the train and, you put off some of the work and you're like, I'm just going to go to the doctor. I'm like, no, no, let's stay with me. Give this just a couple more days. Let's figure this thing out. I think that's the most I can do right now is show up for people and keep educating, keep throwing it out to the internet, in hopes that, every once in a while I get these amazing messages on Instagram and such of like someone that completely changed their outlook on pain or healed something that they'd been struggling with forever because of educational posts that I had, posted a while back. And that's amazing. I'm going to keep doing that until as many people as possible know that it's completely within their power to heal their chronic pain.
Yeah, actually, I was going to bring that up because you and I haven't met before. Obviously you and Kristen know each other, and one of the things we did, of course, was check out your Instagram. And one of the things that really struck me about your Instagram is how much educational content that you post. And it's something that, we've talked a little bit about before, about like free content and creating that impact. And I guess one of my questions for you is, what inspires you to put out this free educational content all the time on Instagram? So what's inspiring you to kind of give away the milk for free, or however you want to say?
Oh man. Well, absolutely, for the reason I just mentioned, which is a heartfelt message from someone who's like, oh my gosh, this just changed everything for me. I think more deep seated is the fact that, social media wasn't a thing when I was growing up. Even the internet was questionable at best during those days where I didn't have anywhere else to turn to when it came to, searching for a possible solution to what I was going through. And I would have given anything to have it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easily motivating to me to keep posting in hopes that even one person is going to be like, oh my gosh, no one in my entire life has not only phrased or like explained something this way, but like nobody's even told me that there's a possibility for me to heal. Like, I want to catch those people. They're, binary language acknowledge. I will never tell somebody that they are no longer able to do something or that they can't heal. Mm-hmm. That is not in my vocabulary for working with clients, because your body is incredibly capable of healing from stuff. Like, we've all heard those stories of people who got in a car accident or something and they recovered what seems like a miraculous healing story. Mm-hmm. The thing is, what makes it so miraculous is that doctors told them repeatedly they would never do these things again. And that person chose to not believe the doctor. So if we were to stop telling people that they're never going to heal, they got to stop squatting, they can never run again, how many more miraculous cases of healing would we have? Because our brains would truly think that it was possible to heal, and our bodies are going to follow suit. So I'm also relentlessly going to put out the message that your body can absolutely heal from what it's going through. And even if it's, not 100%, there's huge milestones that you can accomplish with a little bit of work on your own and a little bit of help.
Yeah. And we're just talking about stories and story work and obviously language. I'm curious how you incorporate that into your practice.
Yeah. Are we all enlifted people?
We are all enlifted people.
Okay. I think level 1 of enlifted a year ago. God, it feels like so much longer than that. I took vocabulary before I took enlifted, and that was what sparked this thing where I caught myself in a lot of soft talk and negations when it came to how I viewed my body's ability to heal. And it was really interesting, as someone who'd already been down this path for a few years, helping other people. It was like, I truly believed everyone else could get out of pain, but I had my own limitations stuck in my brain. And so it's been an interesting process to dive into those, to rewire even where I still have to cut the ties of where I still subconsciously believe the doctors that I am never going to get better. It's hard. When you've been told that enough times, it takes work to overwrite those. But going through that process myself has really helped me see other clients. I've always had the empathy there for them, as I can fully relate to what they're going through. But now having the tools of language to help people rewrite their own stories of where they're still projecting that, like, oh, the doctor said I can't do this anymore, or the negations of like, oh, well, I can't do this. I'm not sure I can heal. All those language things, I like to catch and reframe them as quick as possible, so that in their head, they're setting themselves up for success and cultivating the ideal environment internally as much as possible for healing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I use it a lot with my work. Obviously, I mean, Kristen and I together run instructor-led core language vocabulary courses together, and language is so key in just everything that we do, and making ourselves the heroes of our stories rather than the victims. So I love that you're incorporating that not only to your own healing, but also into those that of your clients, which is amazing. How would you recommend our listeners go about starting their own pirate life and taking small, bold actions?
As it pertains to themselves healing or just in general?
Either one, you choose.
Well, I would absolutely recommend to anyone who's currently feeling, pain or experiencing some kind of limitation to take stock of the fact that your body can absolutely heal. You may simply be missing some tools in order to do it. And you can absolutely follow me and ask me anything if you need help with it, and start implementing certain fascia release techniques or movements on your own. You're fully capable of doing those little actions every day that are going to make a huge difference in the way that your body feels. And of course, just preventing anything like this from coming up again. I want everyone to feel that they can do any of the activities they want. If you want to hike all the mountains in Colorado, do it. I want to get you to the place where you can adventure and move however and whenever you choose. So those are things that are fully possible for anyone willing to put in a little bit of the work and go inward and start to cultivate some body awareness. But as for people in general, I'd say like your deep experiences of frustration or hurt from something that happened, there's so many ways you can take that experience and realize like something's wrong with the system. What if, the ways that you have found healing and growth, like what if you took those and start sharing them with as many people as possible? There's a reason you felt that sensation of like something's wrong here and this feels so out of alignment. But like this thing over here that I found on my own was amazing. Like, let's share all of those things with as many people as we can.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah. And could you tell us more about Roller Club, your membership with that?
Yeah. So I have an online membership called Roller Club. That is a extensive online library where I've recorded all of my fascia release techniques for just about any area of the body you can think of, that you can do with either foam rollers or some simple tools like lacrosse balls or yoga tune-up balls. And I also have a whole section for I put together routines for pain specific things, and then resources for how to understand what's happening in your body and how to essentially find your own root source of the pain. So it's largely about the self-exploration of like, let's try a bunch of techniques. Here's some common pain patterns, but also here you can go down the rabbit hole of really getting to know your body and understanding what's going on and finding things yourself if you like. There's also a community where you can always ask me questions, and there's live classes too. We've got some breathwork classes to help you down-regulate when you're feeling pain. We've got just live maintenance and recovery classes if you spent a lot of time working out during the week. It's been so fun, Tim. It's been such a fun thing that developed during COVID that has given me an opportunity to distill what I know about fascia and then give it to people and give them free rein to start exploring their own tissue and heal all of their own pain.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm going to check that out. That sounds really good. Awesome. So where can our listeners go to find out more about Roller Club and more about you?
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram and also Pinterest, which are both at Movement by Julia. And then if you go to movementbyjulia.com, there's a ton of information on Roller Club. There's also a free 15-minute foam rolling routine you can download to kind of get a feel for the specific style that I'm teaching. It's likely very different from the way you've been foam rolling before, since it's based off of the kinetics body work that I do, and it's extra fun.
What is, I've never been a big, I don't know, believer or fan of foam rolling. Cause I'm like, yeah, it feels a little bit better. But and then the pain comes back anyways when I'm done. So what is the difference between regular foam rolling then and how you do it?
Yeah, so most foam rolling that you're likely familiar with is you're getting on the roller and you're just kind of like rolling yourself back and forth. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I know to be true about fascia and how it interacts with compression and certain kinds of stimulation, it's most effective to get it to let go and rehydrate that tissue if you compress one area as much as you can and then move while one spot is pinned. So ideally we're cross fibering that area, or at the very least moving around in the most dynamic way possible. That's going to do a couple of things. It's going to kind of pull out the wrinkles of the plastic wrap. I usually use the analogy that your fascia is like plastic wrap that wraps around every single thing. So we're pulling out the wrinkles a little bit more effectively there. And we're also massively hydrating that area with both blood flow and water that lives in your fascial system. And that water in your fascial system is what allows your muscles and your joints to glide very smoothly. So that part of the water, that it only really flushes back in when you cross fiber and shear fascial fibers effectively. So that's one of the main differences. I also, as far as it pertains to like roller club and the way that I instruct people in general, is where you're feeling the pain is almost never the problem. And so same thing where like, okay, well, my back hurts. I've been foam rolling my back for the last 2 weeks and I've seen no change. Not surprising, right? Because that pain is happening from a restriction in a different area. Typically it's coming from like the hip flexors and the adductors. And so I'm helping give people the places to roll that fit the pain. I call them pain patterns. And so that's a huge difference from what you're likely used to as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like regular foam rolling is again trying to treat the symptom. Like you said, back hurts, roll the back, but that's not the root cause of what's actually causing the pain.
Totally. And rolling back and forth, you're going to hit some superficial layers of fascia. It's still going to help your lymphatic system flush a little bit. But if you've really got something that's stuck to something else, like your muscle's a little stuck to the bone, or the fascia's tightened around a nerve or a blood vessel or something like that, if we're going to affect deeper layers of fascia, rolling back and forth will not do it. You've got to compress as many layers as you can and then shear those fascial fibers.
Sounds like we're spending more time on the ouchy parts.
Yes, but you are spending less time overall foam rolling.
Gotcha.
Like most of my clients are foam rolling for maintenance like 2 times a week. And even their whole rolling routine for pain relief is about 20 minutes.
Nice.
And that's hitting a lot of different areas. It's just more bang for your buck. We're getting so much more out of the time that you're spending. So yes, it does tend to light up those proprioceptors and give you a lot more sensation. But one, healthy fascia should not hurt. So if you're feeling like, oh, this is really intense, it likely needs it. But also, yeah, overall, you're on a spot for about 30 to 90 seconds, in my opinion. And otherwise, you're just overdoing it. Like it's unnecessary. So less is more.
And you mentioned it earlier, but I just wanted to bring it. How do you incorporate like breath work into that then?
Yeah, so a big part of your body changing, we need to make sure that your nervous system is down regulated. So I'm sure we've all had a massage with a heavy-handed person that was digging into a knot and you're gripping the table and you're like, oh my gosh, it's really intense. When that's happening, your nervous system is switching over to what's called the parasympathetic or the sympathetic state, which is elevating your heart rate. It's probably making you sweat a little bit. All these physiological changes are going on, and your body's going to resist a really intense change like that. Like it wants to protect you and protect itself. So oftentimes that change that a massage therapist did while like digging into a spot is very short term, because your body is actively pushing back out away from that. So being able to tap into breathing and focus on down regulating your body into that parasympathetic nervous state kind of gives the signal to your body that everything is safe. It's safe to change. It's safe to feel these things. And so, like it'll change a lot faster. So of course, there's many tactics for down regulating, but I love breath work. It gives you something to focus on. It keeps you nice and calm as you're experiencing a lot of sensation. And I do believe that's one of the reasons that change is able to happen so much more quickly with the combination of both breathing and doing the fascia release.
Awesome. Anything else for you, Kristen?
No, very much fun. Except we do have always one very, very important question. And that is, do you know any good pirate jokes?
Oh no, I don't know any. How has this happened?
Would you like to hear one?
Yes, always.
What do pirates wear in the winter?
I don't know.
Long johns.
Okay.
I tried to find
in the summer. Do they wear booty shorts? Is that like a pirate joke?
It is now.
Nice.
I tried to find the most groan-worthy one just for you.
Thank you.
Come on.
Well, it's been so good having you on and talking, and learned so much. And I'm definitely, like I said, I'm checking out Roller Club as soon as we get off of this call, because it sounds really awesome. So yeah, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story, and sharing all about how you are a pirate in the healing community.
Oh, thanks so much, you guys. Loved being on with you guys. So good to see your face.
Too.